This is a Clouds weather alert.
Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center. We have a very serious weather situation here on our hands as the Greensburg, Kansas area needs to be in shelter now. You gotta get in a basement. This could be a catastrophic tornado heading into town. You guys had this back in 2007, and tragically, it may be about to happen again. We need you in that basement now if you're in Greensburg, Kansas, in Kiowa County. If you have family members there, let them know that this could be like 2007. I hate saying that again there, like, it was said back in 2007 by folks like Dave Freeman at KSN TV there in the Wichita region, but we may be seeing this again. Remember Moore, they got hit in 1999 and 2013. Greensburg got hit in 2007, and they may be about to get hit by a catastrophic tornado again here in 2025. We need to get you guys into shelter. A tornado emergency in play. The highest level of tornado warning here. It very rarely gets issued. This was for a confirmed large and destructive tornado located near Greensburg, moving northeast at 30 miles an hour. This could be a deadly tornado. This is a particularly dangerous situation. Take cover now. This is a life-threatening scenario. Flying debris may be deadly to those caught without shelter. Mobile homes will be destroyed. Considerable damage to homes, businesses, and vehicles is likely, and complete destruction is possible. Greensburg is going to be impacted here momentarily, and you gotta be in shelter around Greensburg there in Kiowa County. This could be a matter of life and death there around Greensburg. I remember when I was very young seeing images coming out of that town. There was a similar time of night. It might have been even this hour, give or take. And I know today we've seen some concerns, but they haven't been as overwhelming as they could have been, in the overall scenario. But power poles, they've been broken apparently, and or down to the south as this is headed in toward Greensburg. We're going to switch to a different radar perspective right now. I know moderate risk was maintained by the Storm Prediction Center, and the parameters were there if things, in terms of a storm could really take advantage of them. And tragically, that might be what's happening toward the Greensburg area, as this is a very serious situation there around Greensburg. A tornado emergency in effect here. I know some of this is a little displaced, but you can kind of see the little type of maybe weak-bounded echo region, something like that here is what I would kind of call it. It doesn't look, the debris signature is not quite as obvious as it was maybe, but that doesn't mean it can come back together. It kind of weakened one time and then came back together. We kind of had a situation where it was weakening coming into the debris signature wasn't, but the rotation was weakening coming into Grinnell, Kansas earlier on, and we still had very bad damage in town. So you gotta be in shelter there around Greensburg. This is a matter of life and death there in Greensburg, Kansas. You gotta put that baseball helmet on or football helmet on. You gotta have those shoes on. As this could be, something where as you're trying to get out of your safe spot, you might cut your feet up in the aftermath with all the debris, all the broken glass and the like that could be happening. We hate to mention this again. I know people have trauma from what happened in 07, and we hope it doesn't get to that level, but we have a tornado emergency in play. The office there in Dodge City issuing this at about 10:49 Eastern, which is about 9:49 Central, at least is when it's showing up on my system here. I know we're seeing the emergency. I know it's not letting me click on it on this mode. Let me go ahead and go to the other source here. As we're looking at this, as we're tracking this here. I think just kind of, tracking this. It was actually at 48 is when the statement came out from Dodge City, 9:48 Central, but it's on from other system at 9:49. And we jumped on, we have ready in case this took that escalation riding toward town. It maybe headed more to the east side of town. But let's see here. There is a little less population there, but, there could be a little bit of displacement. With this grin, we're only a couple thousand feet up, but we have a very serious weather situation there. Kiowa County, Kansas there, toward the Greensburg area. You guys need to take those tornado precautions immediately here into Greensburg. This is a serious situation anywhere in the Polygon. You guys had this in '07, an F5, and EF5 was the first, I believe, EF5 when they changed the scale there. And we had the potential based on the algorithms here of something similar. You know, in May, 18 years later, we hope it doesn't come to that here on Greensburg. You know, those don't, you know, happen every day, obviously, stuff like that. But we just gotta be taking shelter here. Putting all the latest information, best I can here, in toward the Weather Center. I know there were some improvements done in Greensburg in the wake of that '07 tornado, that EF5. I believe it was the first EF5 on the change there to the scale when they went from F5 to the enhanced Vegeta scale, where we talked about, you know, and they talk about winds of 200 plus miles an hour. So this is a really serious situation. They're still continuing the emergency here. Confirmed large and destructive tornado located near Greensburg, moving northeast at 30 miles an hour. There's also 2 in tail with this. So we gotta get folks into shelter. I'm seeing if there's a traffic camera in that area right now. I know after what happened, there is a camera. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we can pull that up. We're going to try to effort that for you. It's going into the southeast, so you might see power flashes with this if it's going to let us take the feed. I'm sure there's plenty of people in the whole country here, you know, the meteorology community trying to get a look at this camera, and it's having some trouble loading. But we'll go ahead. Let's go ahead and pull up the traffic system here, and we'll just kind of take it from whatever we got on here. This is the view there in the Greensburg area, looking southeast toward the tornado. If we were able to get a live video feed continuously, I suspect we would see power flashes here. Granted, there's not maybe as much down there, but we need to get folks in shelter. I know this tornado even reported on the ground 20 minutes ago, 11 miles southeast of Mullinville in Kiowa County there. So not good situation. Also reported there at 53 past the hour, 7 miles south-southwest of Greensburg. Again, this is very serious stuff. You need to take shelter immediately. This could be a matter of life and death here as we're looking at things. So again, tornado emergency. And we're going to move away from this since it's not really showing us anything at this point. We'll see if we can kind of get a refresh. But I suspect there's just so many people trying to get on there. It may not be able to load the feed for us at this point. Okay, we have another camera a little bit further west. There's a lot of flashes on there. I don't know if they're power flashes or not, so we'll try to pull this up. Let's go to this live. It's a little bit further west there around the Mullinville community. Around Mullinville. Again, we have, you know, a look on this, and maybe off to the southeast, but, you know, there's lightning flashes, maybe power flashes. Here it's kind of hard to tell as we're looking at things right now in toward that area with this tornado emergency. Again, catastrophic damage possible. Move to that basement if you can. This is really serious stuff. Catastrophic tornado. We had this 18 years ago around Greensburg. We sure hope there's not a repeat here. Maybe there won't. We cross our fingers, you know. But it was looking really bad a few minutes ago. We hope for better news after what happened 18 years ago there. And that fateful, I think it was a Friday night there in '07. You know, just really serious situation. You know, then, you know, one of those that people never forget in the meteorology community. The first EF5 is what I believe it was when they changed the scale. You know, we had earlier that year the EF3/2s towards central Florida. Those were the first, you know, type of storms really becoming a big deal on that scale. They just changed it, you know, as the different things were changing in the meteorology community at that point. But okay, going back to the radar we go. Going back to the radar here. I feel like the tornado, unlike the one maybe in '07, if the radar is accurate, this one's going to go a little east of town. The one in '07 kind of took a beeline for town. This was like trying to do that earlier on shear rate, but I think the initiation point might have kind of changed some things. So, and I'm going to show you here. Let's go ahead and show you. You can see we had to track. There's kind of going northeast, and it kind of started to go more north, and now it's kind of trying to go back on track a little. So, you know, the initiation point might have affected things just a little bit here as we're looking, as this may go just east of downtown Greensburg here, but it's not a guarantee, and you must stay in shelter because, you know, earlier on, you know, there's things you look at, you think, okay, maybe they're going to be spared, and then they don't get spared. So you can't take any chances around Greensburg. Remember, again, you know, we just got to get folks, you know, to stay in those shelters, in those basements until this passes, you know. This is not an all clear by any stretch there toward that area. Real quick, I do want to update some folks here in the overall picture down toward the south because we have a tornado warning in North Texas. The one storm weekend, I mean, as you're looking at things here, whoa, it looks like other storm just completely fell apart, which is, you know, almost impossible. They canceled the tornado watch that they had for Tarrant and Dallas, and now this storm has become the dominant storm headed toward McKinney there, Collin and Denton. And there's also, you know, destructive tag on a severe thunderstorm warning for that area. 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts, ping pong both sides now, so they've changed it to considerable. But it was for 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts, which made it destructive for Denton and Collins. Now down to 70. So they took the destructive tag away. But that's a storm there in North Texas. I can't believe how quickly that storm weakened that was headed, you know, and they're kind of heading toward Tarrant and Dallas counties. But let's get back to Greensburg here. I mean, we've got to keep watching every scan. We got to keep watching every scan for those folks, those poor folks in Kiowa County, as we're looking there. So you can see the blues, winds going toward the radar in Dodge City, red's going away. This does not look as organized, but that might be debris popping up. Yeah, you know, I think the tornado could still be there. And it's still going to probably hit some folks here, but it may, you know, the town's over here. I know earlier we had, it kind of looked like it was weakening for Grinnell, Kansas, but the town still got hit from reports with the debris coming on in. So this is Greensburg. You know, they were devastated in 07, that fateful Friday night. This is a Sunday night. And, you know, May, 18 years later, I mean, think about it here. Folks, you know, that born that lunch is turning 18 years old. They hear all the stories, and hopefully they don't have to relive the impact. Maybe, you know, taking shelter and not of, you know, fear, but hopefully that, you know, folks that got hit in 07, their homes, you know, aren't going to get hit again here in 25. It's looking better than it did, but there's still a catastrophic tag from the office there in Dodge City on this. They're still saying this could be catastrophic. You know, and it could still be for the areas that get hit. Let's keep looking. We can't let our guard down anywhere in this warning by any stretch here. That looks like a nasty, you know, signature, but it looks like there's, you know, sparsely populated areas. So you can kind of tell by the topography. Maybe something here, over here, as you're looking. Over here, of course, those could be devastated. This could be deadly if you're not in the basement. But that's a big contrast from going right through the center of town, you know, causing the devastation like what happened in 07. So again, we just have to be really cautious here with this. But that's what looks like it's happening. Is the worst is going east of town based on radar. You know, I don't think the displacement from the distance would be enough to be that far off here. The debris looks to be over here. That does not look to be debris, you know, off toward the west there. I can't imagine knowing this. Watch this to the south, but that would, well, that looks like it's rotating some, but I'd probably head more east, if anything, I would think, than the lead cell. But I mean, you see where it was reported, so it's kind of taking a path like this. This one, if it does strengthen, it'd probably take a path more toward some of these areas further east. You see Wellsford, or I'm going to try to pronounce this, Haviland there. I was trying to figure out how to pronounce that earlier on in case we had to jump in, but Haviland. So again, just continuing to track this here. Extremely dangerous situation. Tornado emergency continues for Greensburg. You know, east side of town could still take a big blow from this tornado emergency that's still in effect here. It looks like we got an update further north. Now let's see here. Okay, so they're continuing it for areas further north and moving northeast at 35, and I think they just took the emergency away, and they're now calling this considerable again. They're calling this considerable, so the emergency, okay, has been dropped now. Still a significant situation, but they have dropped the tornado emergency yet. About 10:04, a confirmed large and extremely dangerous tornado is located 3 miles east of Greensburg, moving northeast at about 30 miles an hour. This is a particularly dangerous situation for areas east of Greensburg. Greensburg is no longer in the tornado emergency, but take cover now. Weather spotters still confirming a tornado, and this could be a deadly, damaging one, for areas further downstream as well, as mobile homes would be destroyed in a situation like this. I know, looking at some things, Storm Prediction Center's now a discussion saying the winds in this could be as high as 150 miles an hour here, so that would be very significant. I know what we had in Marion, Illinois. We were tracked with a tornado emergency on Friday. That area went to 190 in the survey. Right now, anyway, in theory, it's not a guarantee. It's just a kind of a help and aid for meteorologists. But they're saying they think about as high as in an area here. I'll show you in a second. That winds could be about 150. So there's that red circled area. We'll see who else could be in the path of this in case, if we watch the trends, feel like we can kind of wrap it up. I want to make sure that we're kind of, you see how high the parameters are for tornadoes in here. Those are almost off the chart. I want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence here. They're still calling us a considerable threat near Heavy Land there. Haviland, something like that. Haviland sounds more accurate. Just that sounds better, but not 100% sure there. Let me do some drawing here, maybe on another source. It looks really tight there, guys. On my other source. It's probably down crossing that, key road there in the area. We're talking about US 54, just crossing that as we're looking at this. So let me go ahead and show you guys another look here. Again, we don't like to hype things up unless we have to, but after what happened in 07 and being under an emergency, we kind of had to pull out the, tools here in terms of all the different wording we can use here to try to make sure people took this seriously. I'm sure there's still a lot of damage. It just didn't go right to the center of town like 07. It did not appear anyway, preliminarily, but we'll find out more in the hours to come. It looks like it's trying to organize again as we look at this here. I'm just going to kind of try to draw this out here, get an idea of the angle this is kind of moving here over the next little bit. Kind of following our track. So, let's see here. Okay, so areas maybe around Byers, give or take, could have a problem here. Next little bit. It looks really tight on the rotation. Another source I'm looking at. I'm sure you can see it on there too. I just don't have it zoomed in as tight. Just checking some things here behind the scenes, going between some different products here. So keep that one up. There's a new tornado warning in Nebraska now for eastern Fillmore County, according to the Hastings office. Radar indicated a rotation up that way. Okay, new tornado warning for Kiowa and Pratt. At 10:09, a confirmed tornado located 9 miles south of Greensburg. Okay, it's the other storm now. Okay, that other storm now is producing a confirmed tornado, actually. Okay, so we're about to switch over to that here in a minute. But, okay, the one I was looking at there, they're going all the way to confirmed on that now. The one that's going to go a little bit further east, probably. But we're watching this, you know, around the areas there. Haviland, Greensburg. I know. Could be close toward maybe the Truesdale area here over the next little bit, give or take. Just trying to do some tracking here on my other system. Might have it up on here. Again, a very dangerous weather situation. Okay, so we're seeing this. As it goes northwest of Byers, that could get it into parts of Pratt County. But also, you know, if it's not too far away from Truesdale, that would be parts of Edwards County first. So maybe getting into Edwards County and then getting into Pratt County and then maybe Stafford County there. So that kind of gives you an idea of where we're tracking this situation here. That looks very tight still. Okay, so we're going to kind of stop the motion. That looks really, 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 really tight there, folks. But it's kind of, you know, you might have to watch this to get upgraded a little for areas further east, but it is still considered PDS on that. But let's see here. We've got a few different warnings now, so those winds look really incredible in a bad way there. My goodness. 120 one way and 50 the other way. So that's about 170 miles an hour worth of wind possibly being transported down to the surface. But then this is a confirmed tornado down here now, apparently. Remember, we heard the information it was, you know, it's going to get cut off. But it's 9 miles south of Greensburg there. So right in here. But then that tornado, that would be more of a problem for Haviland there. You would think the Haviland area. Again, gotta be taking your precautions. That means, you know, maybe not as much right in Greensburg, but in Haviland there. You guys need to make sure that you stay in that tornado safe spot. You need to stay in that safe spot. And this one here, this, you know, looks like a doozy here still. I bet we'll get a pretty big debris drop out on that. Let me go ahead and switch modes. Again, continue to track this here very carefully. Trying to keep you guys safe and informed. I suspect there'd be a big debris drop out in here, but there's not a whole bunch there. But enough still, I think it'd pick up debris. Again, still watching the situation very carefully. Very nasty scenario. We continue to watch. We continue to track. I don't know, having storms underneath that really help that strengthen up. To the south, I mean. Again, it's all about protecting you, your friends, and your family in these very dangerous situations. Let me see if there are any questions or comments. Just checking some of the different sources here. I so much for tuning in. Trust in me. It's a very dangerous scenario. Rotation tracker here. I know we had that kind of northern turn. If you look down here, it kind of went due north, and that's what really raised some alarm bells for the Greensburg area. But then it turned back to the north and east and missed the center of town. But now you see some very tight rotation there, kind of straddling between Haviland there and Greensburg. So that's kind of the storyline there. Let me go ahead and zoom back out. I'm going to zoom all the way down into toward Texas. Severe thunderstorm warning continuing there. Parts of the McKinney area. Severe thunderstorm over Prosper, now down to 60-mile-an-hour wind gust. Quarter-size hail there, the biggest concern. So it's better than it was. The other storm faded completely, which is crazy. And then we have this storm here in toward Fillmore County, a tornado warning. Ritter indicated rotation there. Eastern Fillmore County moving northeast at 30 miles an hour. So that's the storyline there. Let me go ahead and zoom back out a little bit. Again, the Kiowa County area. So concerned. You know, some areas still going to have problems there. No doubt. I'm really surprised we haven't seen another debris dropout like what we had earlier on. Because earlier on, as this was coming toward Greensburg, I got to back it up a good ways. That may have been it there, but let me look at the structure here. Might need to go back a little bit further than that. Yeah, down in here about 41 past the hour. With all that debris sun up, and it was kind of heading that direction. You know, if it kept going further north, they'd have a problem, but it kind of went off more toward the east there. That looks like the beginning of a dropout. Yeah, I'm sure that on my other source, I'm sure it's showing it by now. Yeah, that's another tornado on the ground there. As we're looking northwest to Haviland. You see that debris there. Another tornado on the ground. I'm pretty confident about that. Probably a very significant tornado. You know, at night, you're having to depend on power flashes, and it's so dark. I mean, this could be a tornado with winds to 160 miles an hour or so, at least according to velocity. That's very significant. Very significant. Yeah, latest scan on debris, so it's exactly what I thought. Another tornado is definitely down there, northwest of Haviland there. Another tornado is down in toward that area. Let's go ahead and keep looking here. You see that debris on there? Maybe hitting a few homes, hit or miss there. It is missing the, you know, downtown Haviland area though. These winds extremely strong. Kind of heading this general direction. So it could be getting close to Byard ultimately. You know, hitting homes, hit or miss here. You see maybe between St. John here in Kansas or in Stafford. You know, but this is going to be headed there. Maybe parts of Edwards County, but also more so parts of Pratt County, and then up in towards Stafford County. With this storm that has a history of an extremely dangerous tornado. We had the tornado emergency for Greensburg there just a little while ago. Again, continuing to keep you guys up to date on this very serious situation in the meteorology community. Trying to get the latest update, trying to effort those. Again, continuing to track this. Okay, we just got another update. They've issued a new warning for a large and extremely dangerous tornado near the Haviland area, moving northeast at 25 miles an hour. And then we have the other storm to the south. That's radar indicated now. But that's kind of headed up, inward this area, give or take. This is a more dominant looking one. It's headed more up toward this area. Again, continuing to give you the very latest on this very serious weather situation, obviously. You can see how the debris has started back up there northwest of Haviland. Trying to give you the latest update. There's going to be a lot of hail in this. This could be rain wrapped in general. The winds based on radar, 70 one way, 70 the other way, went to 140 or so miles an hour possible. Sticking with this, even if there's not a tornado emergency right now in play, because the history on this is still showing something really significant. That debris doesn't look quite as dense, maybe, that latest scan, so maybe it's starting to weaken off some. I made this one because of that one frame, though, because that there, and then there's that weaker. But then the debris from that frame, but if we get debris, the next frame is kind of going to be delayed, and the next frame might set the debris back more significant again. Can't wait for debris signatures to be taken shelter, that's for sure. Let's go over to tornado safety tips here. I'm just trying to watch and play. Make sure you're staying tuned for the latest updates. There are multiple ways to receive alerts. Conditions favorable for tornadic activity in these scenarios. Now, when a tornado warning is issued, that means you need to seek shelter inside a sturdy building. Get as many walls between you and the outside as possible. And protect yourself from flying debris by putting on a bicycle helmet, football helmet, or baseball helmet. Obviously, a basement is preferable to all that, though, but not to have your shoes on in the aftermath of a tornado because you don't want to cut your feet up there. And that's a way to, really help, you maybe not doing that near as much. Help you not do that near as much. Let's go ahead and go back to some other modes here. Still see that debris signature. That new tornado warning. Let me break that down. So, Kiowa, Edwards, and Pratt counties until 11 p.m. Central at 10:20. And let me go ahead and just go to regular reflectivity because it kind of gets messy in there. At 10:20 Central Time, a confirmed large and extremely dangerous tornado that was located near Haviland, which I think is the way you pronounce that, not Haviland. It makes a lot more sense. Sounds a lot better, you would think, to say Haviland. But moving northeast at 25 miles an hour. Damaging tornado radar confirmed, but it's going to mainly affect rural areas there of northeastern Kiowa, southeastern Edwards, and northwestern Pratt counties. But there's still some homes in there, as we showed you, and they could be in the path of the potentially deadly tornado. Again, going ahead and looking at some other modes here. I know the latest scan on debris tracker has it kind of almost gone, but the next scan it could be completely different. We just got the parameters for tornadoes are just really outrageously, high here. It is on the back side though, which would make you think it'd be a little bit harder to maintain because it would lack, being able to kind of keep that spin up. You would think that says winds of about 40 and 67, so that's still into about 110 miles an hour, give or take, doing that math on the fly here. So again, gotta be very careful. Gotta be very careful, obviously. So we're in northeastern Kiowa County, gonna be headed in toward areas of Pratt County and or parts of a little bit of Edwards County, maybe. Because this is, yeah, your spin's right here. So let's kind of track it. It's in, you know, Kiowa, but then it kind of maybe goes into Edwards for a split second, and then it'll get into Pratt County. So that's kind of the storyline with this very serious tornadic scenario. Okay, the debris signature's not showing up right now. I'm just going all the way through higher tilt on this. Again, still looking at it. "110 miles an hour on the wind." Check that other one to the south. Doesn't look near as well put together down there. Again, continuing to keep you guys up to date. 60, 70, that's 130. So maybe a little strengthening. We look at a little bit lower value, that could be indications of debris lower CC values, but not like they were. That doesn't mean the next frame couldn't be. It'll be more like 120 underwinds if it's reaching. This is a loft, but when they reach, that's the problem. And I think it is down again. I think we have our tornado on the ground once again, based on that latest correlation coefficient scan. In pretty rural territory, northeastern Kiowa County. There's parts of Edwards County, and this is Pratt County in Kansas. I know the Wichita TV stations cover this. I know they have some different, you know, at least they did years ago, and they might still kind of have it like this, where there's kind of different relays across the state, maybe like Dodge City transmitter, similar to that. This is the Dodge City radar and the Dodge City office that we're looking at. Dodge City, let me take this out of correlation coefficient. Dodge City, as we zoom out, is over here. So this, you know, the metro of that area, not huge, but it's big for that part of the state. And we're looking about 3,000–4,000 feet up, and we're about 55 miles, 50 miles, give or take, away from that here on the Doppler. Now for Wichita, say they're pretty far away from this. I might switch the radar to see what it's showing in a minute, but they're about, you know, 80–90 miles away. But that's the TV stations and news broadcast, weather broadcast that cover that area. They just kind of sometimes change them up a little based on the transmitter sites, or they did at least in 07, and have some over the years, you know, after that. So I'm just going off the Wichita radar to see what it looks like there. I know the rotation still looks really tight up there in northeastern Kiowa County. But obviously the closest radar is over in Dodge City. And definitely debris again. Doesn't want to stop in this type of environment as we continue to track it. This isn't a 15% tornado risk. You know, it wasn't a huge area they maintained, and this is verifying that, I would say. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and zoom out on here. You see the tornado watches in that area. There are 3 in the country, 2 up there, 1 down here in North Texas. See, there's tornado 1 down in northern Mississippi, kind of random there. Kind of interesting, right near the interstate. Possible tornado around the Hernando area. It's in the Memphis TV market, I would say, more than anything. It's a new severe thunderstorm warning. You see that broad zone. We have the tornado warning for Collin County. So around McKinney. Some rotation there. So you're taking shelter. Hook on that storm. We'll go over the storm around McKinney. Some rotation. Let's go Mississippi, that rogue storm, right near the Memphis terminal Doppler. I wonder if that's what they used to see that. Maybe, let's see. Kind of some spin there south of Nesbitt. And then I'm going to go ahead and get back up to the north though. Under that tornado risk for the remainder of the night. In general, granted some, you're not going to see it in, as we get further on, but you see the rogue storm down here north of Brownwood, Texas, west central Texas. There's a 5% risk. So is this area up here where we had some pretty bad tornadic accident west of the DFW Metro earlier. Tornado warning there on McKinney. See a 5% risk. Oklahoma City, Tulsa, but there's no storms right now. They may or may not develop down there. And then as you get here, what's it to Wichita, though? 15% risk in that red zone. That red zone, not the outline, which will take off, but the red underlay. 15% risk, so moderate, driven, tornado-driven moderate risk there, I would say, for most of that. Now, some of that actually is for the hail in toward Wichita as we look ahead. So that'll be something to watch for. But again, watching this carefully. Long way off, but it might head in the direction of Stafford, near Kansas. We'll see. It might go a little south of that. But if it tries to jog north, you never know. I mean, what's the speed on this? Moving northeast at 25, pretty slow. It's, can increase the damage for the areas it does hit. That's another hour from Stafford. But they're in that, really high hail risk and really high tornado risk. Hail tracker. Seeing hail over an inch in diameter on here. For sure. As we continue to watch this. Okay, getting some updates now. Let's see what they have. Weather Service in Dodge City I'm talking about. I think they're kind of weakening, and I want to say that they should change maybe both of these. Let me make sure because there may just be a duplicate on there. Okay, this one's radar down here. Oh, let me switch modes. Okay, this one down here, there's the mouse. This warning, it goes down all the way in here, that's radar. This one here still is the confirmed one, though. Still seeing some debris signatures at times. Again, still trying to give you the latest. We continue along. I know a lot of this in more rural areas that we're talking about with the tornado emergency not in play anymore. I may wrap it pretty soon. I'm obviously break back in if and as needed with other streams. See this area southeast of Haviland. We have this area northeast of Haviland. We'll watch the buyers community for this to see if it tightens up. Again, just continuing to watch. That looks like it's trying to tighten up on the flank there, but sometimes we need. We had a tornado a few years ago. Is when tragically, I believe 3 OU students were killed. We had one. That was a storm chasing accident, I believe. But what the storyline with that one was is the radar reflectivity wasn't necessarily matching up there, and that it was really light, but there was a really photogenic tornado. So you just got, you got to be kind of weather aware here. Weather aware because sometimes you can have low, reflectivity values and still have a tornado on the back side. So that's why you got to be careful that happened. in the Wichita metro, but not right in Wichita. So we just gotta watch this to make sure it doesn't spin up here. Rod rotates, and that looks tighter up there on that flank. But yeah, this looks more, I think it's becoming more broken apart here. Unless I'm gonna, on the side where we can get more inflow into it comes together. So this could spin up, but it looks like it'd be harder to produce a stronger tornado for, the long time up period. Now, I say that, and the parameter is high there. I kind of, it makes me nervous saying that because it's just storm mode doesn't really support it anymore. The parameters are just crazy high, so it can't be rolled out. I mean, that's your instability, but then look at the tornado parameters. These are unbelievable because I can't even see what I'm seeing here. There's all this purple in here. That's a 15 on the STP. I believe it was a 10 when we had the Tuscaloosa tornado in 11 there. So, if the wrong storm mode comes to pass here, then you can have disaster on your hands. Where we can see, like, buildings just completely gone. All you have left is a foundation. That's why you gotta be really mindful, really careful. Of course, we've had tragedy already, Friday night. All those people losing their life there in the London, Kentucky area and Laurel County there. And then we're talking about a situation. You had a couple folks lose their life in southeast Missouri, and then 5 or so in St. Louis area. And then that tornado in Marion, Illinois area anyway, it was very bad. At high NDF 4, maybe the highest wind damage of all of them though. So far, nobody lost their life from the reports. People getting to that shelter, thankfully. But you just gotta always stay weather aware, obviously, in these type of situations. Always important to follow broadcast media. I know Grant Dade, and I was on top of it since it was a tornado emergency, but Grant Dade there in that market, KFES 12, he was really, really, really on top of it there, giving folks that heads up on everything, making sure folks were safe. I interned with him 10 years ago, and he does such a great job in that market. Keeping everybody safe there to keep throughout the Paducah, Harrisburg, Illinois market. So, great job to him. A great job by him. Props to him. As we continue to watch here on the Doppler perspective, what's going on in Kansas right now. You see that's kind of headed toward buyers on the shear rate, but I think it's weakened a good bit. So that warning in Mississippi, they're not even under a watch over there. Watching those two areas right now, tornado warnings. The parameters, there's hardly no STP over there. It's just incredible. If we get anything to develop here, and it really maintains itself overnight, we could have a disaster on our hands. Right now, there's nothing. I don't think there's really anything in the whole state of Oklahoma, except for maybe right here at the border. If we get anything to develop, Woodward, to Enid, to Elk City, Oklahoma City. I know years ago we had something around Woodward when we didn't have maybe as big of a day they could have had down there, and then something hit Woodward, and it was a disaster for them. So you just never know. We just got to be really mindful here. If something develops, make sure you have multiple ways to get alerts. As of now, no tornado watch down there. Things can change in a heartbeat, in a hurry down there. So stay weather aware with these incredible high parameters. We're going to be watching on that. On Monday, obviously, of course, we have this tornado warning up here. As we continue to watch this. Make sure it doesn't recycle on us. It might be trying a little bit on the flank there. Let me go ahead. That might just be the inflow, though. That may just be inflow. Yeah, that kind of looks more like inflow, generally. But it's still showing something around west of Cullinson, okay. Trying to pronounce these the best I can here, but we'll watch that. I'll try to loop this around. Something like this, maybe. So I might go south, maybe closer to Iuka, Kansas, give or take. But it's not as organized as it was. It doesn't seem. Granted, they're saying it's a confirmed large and extremely dangerous tornado near Hopewell. They're moving northeast at 25 observed, so. Okay, let's see what we have with this. Won't see a whole bunch there, but so be careful. Be very careful. Switching between some modes here. They confirm this based on radar, and I think that's more the inflow, quite honestly. Not a guarantee that it's all inflow, but I'm just continuing to watch this. Right in there. It could still be trying to tighten up. This northwest side of Cullinson. Yeah, 55 one way if you really extrapolate out. Maybe 67 the other way, but really right next to it, not so much those high gate to gate values. Has that spin to it though, that's for sure. Has that little spin. Go ahead. Switch radars here. Yeah, some hail up there. Looks like headed up toward buyers. Could be over an inch in diameter, maybe up to 2 inches. We're definitely going to keep our eyes on that. We're just looking at the grand scheme of things here. Temperatures in the 70 range around Pratt. Upper 60s around Wichita. Okay. They've now changed it. They're going now with the updates. If it's thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Cullinson, not confirmed anymore. At least at 20. So maybe it'll be still a little northerly component with it though. Okay, with that being said, we're going to wrap it up for now, I think. Let me just make sure there's no questions or comments from any of the viewers here at home. Bear with me. Okay, just thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for trusting me. Folks, tuning in on the different platforms there. I appreciate everybody watching and trusting me for the very latest on this dangerous situation. Another risk tomorrow that's going to be over a very big area geographically. And we're talking about, from Texas through parts of Oklahoma and just so many other states, Missouri and Arkansas could have strong tornadoes in a variety of areas. It's hard to pinpoint right now, but we're talking about, around, McKinney, Texas, or Oklahoma City, and or that, Norman, Moore, Tulsa, Fayetteville, Arkansas, Springfield, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, Jefferson City, Missouri, St. Joseph, Missouri, Wichita, Kansas, Topeka, Kansas. Any of those areas could have a strong tornado tomorrow, and other areas even, surrounding, a small chance of that. Not quite as high as a rogue one, but that's where it's more likely in that very large hatched area that the Storm Prediction Center has out there on that Monday, which I'm just going to pull up on my other source here real quick. There it is. Very big hatch area. Strong tornadoes possible. All in the hatch zone. Here and there. It's a bigger area because the forecast confidence of the models struggling so much. It's a little lower. Probably get a red area added in there. Might see some of that yellow taken away at some point. And that it might not need to be quite that big with the overall pattern. But we shall see. That's going to do it for now. We'll be back adding either through the night and tomorrow. Tuesday possibly toward like Tennessee area. If something possibly developing, we'll be on with our full update there as we're looking ahead. And then, maybe locally with stuff on Wednesday in this pattern. We shall see. Have a good night for now. We'll be back again as needed.